Why is it when we say the word play in the classroom, we sometimes feel like we just said a 4-letter word or something, a different kind of 4-letter word? Sometimes play can get watered down, not usually by teachers, but by outside forces or admin or the powers that be, and we hear phrases like, oh yeah, I was there and they were just playing. Does that make you cringe? It makes me cringe. Most of the time when people say just playing, they don't intend for it to be negative or derogatory, but it comes off that way as if play is something like, oh, other. So play is like a bad word, like, oh, they're just doing that, right? Well, we're just playing. They would never say like, oh, they're just learning how to read. They're just learning social emotional skills. They're just learning how to count. It never gets put on with those types of statements. But why does it get put that way with play? So if you've ever felt like you had to defend playful learning to your admin, to parents, or even to yourself when you're trying to fit it in, this episode is for you. So we end up with a lot of pressure from outside forces as teachers. Every teacher, no matter what grade you teach, has these pressures. But in early childhood specifically, we live in this world where even when play is supported, we still have a lot of pressure about testing and evidence of learning. And that evidence of learning oftentimes is still paper format or test format or digital format or some format where it's more of a test instead of using play as evidence. Now, some schools are moving more toward using play as evidence, which amazing, and it should be. And I'd love to hear from you on where your school stands with like, what are your assessments? What do they look like? Are they play-based? Are you still like, oh no, we're preparing these kindergartners to sit on the computer and answer these quick questions or multiple choice or things like that really just aren't developmentally appropriate? So we might be in a lot of different situations, but you can probably agree with me that play absolutely matters, and our students likely aren't getting as much of it as we would like them to. And likely, block play, dramatic play, sensory play, maybe it's not counting toward those amazing goals we have for our students as evidence, and we wish it would. So this myth that play is the opposite of learning is just that. It's a myth. Play is not one thing and then learning. We don't say, oh, we have to go learn now. Oh, now we're going to go play. They're not different things, even though we often group play in its own time of day because we have to for schedules oftentimes. But really, they go together. And I want us to stop apologizing for, even if we're not verbally apologizing, maybe we're just in our mind like at war with trying to fit everything in our schedule. Don't apologize for having a developmentally appropriate classroom. That means you're doing your job. Now, we know kids need play. We know they do. We know they need to explore, to create, to ask questions, to problem solve, work together. They need to figure things out in this way. I'm not here to tell you to never use worksheets. I mean, we've used recording sheets in our centers. We have recording sheets in our centers. There's a time and a place for papers and pens and crayons and markers and all of those tools. Definitely. But when we are maybe not us, but maybe people making us have those things be the only evidence that counts, then we have a problem. Now, I do want to say most of us probably know, and we've tried to convey to admin that like when students are playing with a block tower and they're building something, they're engaging in planning, counting, role-playing, addition, sequencing. They're cooperating with others. They're learning a lot of skills. We know when they're painting, when they're playing library, when they're doing all of these things, they're learning academic skills while they're doing that. But what I want to highlight on here is something that I feel like we get the most pressure on and we get the most feedback on, especially now. It's 2025 as of the time of recording this. And I feel like we are constantly hearing about the poor social emotional skills of our students. Maybe you can like nod along. I can't see you, of course, but nod along if you agree. Maybe you've heard that. Maybe you've experienced that. You're like, whoa, something is in the water. There is a lot going on. Of course, there has been a lot happening in the last several years, and I mean, we could say that from time and time again, decades back, right? Things are always changing and evolving in the world, and it impacts our students, of course. But what I'm saying is we're hearing about these negative social emotional skills and how they need to be improved. But then play is being pulled back sometimes in favor of maybe a box curriculum that promises to solve these social emotional problems. Well, there's nothing wrong with having resources and tools to help students develop those social emotional skills. Of course not. And there's probably a lot of great resources and activities that are created for that purpose. However, we can't say that these students, man, they've got to learn to cooperate and be kind and get along. We can't say that while simultaneously taking away their playtime. And when I say we, I'm mostly talking to the powers that be that are the ones like you're probably not taking away their playtime. We're probably fighting for more of it. But that's where I see it being the biggest problem, not just in academics, but when we want students to get along and be part of a community and we're not allowing them to play, we are doing them a disservice. We are taking away the opportunities for them to practice those social skills, because that's how they build social skills, is through play. And guess what? When a student is emotionally regulated, when they are able to feel calm and confident and they develop those skills, guess what? Academics are going to come easier when we're not in a different state with our emotional regulation and we're not running into the same behaviors and the struggles, right? So they do go hand in hand, and play is the road there. If I get hyped up and sound like I'm yelling, just know I'm on your side with this. We are probably thinking the same thing. So what if, as teachers, if we could shift our mindset together and just make this pact together, what if we didn't water down play? And I know we're not doing that intentionally. It gets kind of watered down for us. What if we really stopped saying, oh, we're just playing? What if we even tried to stop thinking about it? What if instead we were like, oh, yep, we're working on collaboration. We're developing critical thinking skills. I've said this in other episodes, but this is why I love those posters that I have in the Play course for you. I'll put it in the show notes, where in your block area, in your art area, they tell you what students are learning. And it's great when you feel a little bit nervous, like when admin comes in or people are touring the room and they're like, oh, what are they doing? And you're like, in your mind, you're like, well, they're playing. But these aren't fellow like kindergarten teachers, right? They might not get it. So these posters tell them, oh, they're working on X, Y, Z. You can even put the ones up that you like and show them like, oh, let me show you what they're doing. They're doing this, and here's a little helpful poster you might like to see while you're here. It's great to get people who don't understand maybe early childhood development. They don't understand what play means. It gets them to be like, oh, wow, I had no idea. And it can kind of reframe how they are thinking about play as well. So as we close here, I want to reassure you that if you're prioritizing play or you're trying to squeeze it in, maybe you listen to some of our other episodes about ways to make our classrooms more playful, or you've read articles from us on the blog and you're just trying all the tips and tricks, I want you to know you are doing the right thing. Even if it feels hard, even if it doesn't look, air quote, rigorous enough, you are helping your students learn in a developmentally appropriate way. And your students will likely have less classroom management struggles. I've said it many times and I'll say it hundreds more. When we prioritize learning through play, we are helping make our classroom management easier. Behaviors will lessen. Your class will have less struggles than other classrooms not prioritizing play, which means that actually when it comes to the rigorous academic things, your students will have the ability to get further because they are in a better position to continue moving. They're not stopping all the time for all of these struggles and these issues. If you are also super passionate about play and you're feeling like, you know what, this is the year I really want to feel confident making my classroom more developmentally appropriate, you can, of course, always hang out with us here on the podcast at thekindergartenconnection.com or at the Kindergarten Connection on Instagram. And I also want to invite you to join us in our final round of the Playful Learning All Year course. We do this once each summer. It's a 5-week experience. You get lifetime access, and we're going to walk through exactly how to set up and engage in a developmentally appropriate classroom. It's going to be your best year yet. We will put all the details in the show notes for you below, and I will see you on the next episode. Happy teaching.